Kenshin1913 and...
Mom, hi!
And this is another Cooking with Kenshin1913. This time we're going to be making tomato sauce or pasta sauce the real Italian way. Alright, for this recipe is a meat sauce recipe, so we're going to need... What is that, Ma? You can explain.
Okay, this is actually called, you can buy it in the grocery store, it's called a meat starter or a sauce starter. It has a piece of beef, it has a couple of sausages, and a piece of pork. Sometimes you can just buy singly just a piece of beef, or you can even get what makes a great sauce with the beef is country pork ribs. If you want to add that, you could add just sausage. We're also going to be adding a brujol, which is over here. This is a thin slice of meat that has been stuffed. The stuffing in here is breadcrumbs, a little bit of cheese, and parsley and garlic. And then it's rolled and tied up, and then that goes into the sauce as well. But you can be as simple as you want with just putting, if you don't eat pork, you can just do it with beef. You can actually make a brujol out of any kind of meat. And then in a little bit, we're going to show you how to make meatballs. So you could add just meatballs if you wanted to. But we're going to start it off a traditional sauce with a meat base.
And we've got ourselves some olive oil. We're going to be needing garlic. We're going to need oregano.
Basil.
Oh, basil.
Basil. Please do not put oregano in your sauce. It'll taste like pizza sauce.
Yeah. And then we're going to be using puree and tomato paste. We'll explain what... Well, actually, let's explain the difference right now. What is the difference between tomato puree and tomato sauce?
Tomato puree is the traditional just ground up and the seeds are taken out of the tomatoes, the plum tomatoes. You can see them on the can. There's nothing added to it. It's just pure tomato. Tomato sauce, which you can use with other cooking recipes, has water that's been added to it, and it's much more liquidy than a tomato puree. You could also use crushed tomatoes, which will have a little bit more of the pulp, and sometimes you'll see a little bit of the seeds. You can also use, some people like to use a combination of all three, puree, crushed, and even whole tomatoes, and they cut that up for a much thicker kind of sauce. But tomato sauce, if you see that, that is, you don't make an Italian pasta sauce with that.
And then we have tomato paste, which is basically just tomato.
It's just tomatoes that have been simmered down into being very, very thick. That's truly what it's called, a paste.
It helps thicken up.
It helps thicken up your tomato, your pasta sauce, because you're going to add some extra liquid, and the longer it cooks, the better it tastes.
Yep, and then we have some basil and pepper and salt.
Okay, the pan that we're going to use, this is an old time pan. You probably can't find it anymore. It's just an aluminum pan that I have had for years and years and years. I like to make my sauce in this, but you can, this one is about an 8 quart or 10 quart, but you can use a regular sauce pan. This one happens to be a 6 quarter. If you have one a little bit bigger, you can also use that. And this is a stainless steel pan. This is a splatter screen. I happen to use a splatter screen on my pasta sauce to let the steam evaporate, and while the tomato sauce is getting thicker. Some people like to put on a cover on their sauce and keep it on a simmer. It's just a preference. I always like to do the splatter screen, and this just helps so that the sauce doesn't spit all over your stove.
So let's get cooking.
Okay, we're gonna start. And one of the reasons why we're doing this today is that there's so many people who are intimidated by making their own homemade pasta sauce.
Yeah, a lot of people like to use the jarred sauce, which as an Italian isn't that good, but I guess if you're in a pinch, you can use it.
A lot of people use it, but we want to show people how simple it is to actually make your own sauce for pasta.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we're going to add some olive oil into the pan.
Olio. Yay!
And you can use regular. You can use olive oil, or you can actually use vegetable oil if you prefer.
Yeah. Now, what kind of olive oil is that? Is that extra virgin?
This one happens to be
just,
an extra virgin one,
yeah.
and you can use regular. Now, extra virgin, you just have to be careful that you don't bring it too hot that you're going to burn it.
Mm-hmm.
So as you can see, I just coated my pan.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to add my meat. So I'm going to turn my stove on to let this start to warm up a little bit.
And as this is going, we will begin to start cutting the garlic, right? So usually we'd have a whole clove of garlic, and we got that over there. That's what garlic looks like, obviously, some people know. And then basically what my mom did off screen, I guess, she basically just, cut
my garlic up.
Yeah.
Peeled it up.
Peeled off the.
So I'm ready
peeled
for
off
it.
the skin.
So
there.
I have about 6.
I want this. There we go. Oh yeah.
I have about 6 cloves of garlic.
Mm-hmm.
You could put as much as you want or as little as you want, but you do need to put some garlic in there to give a flavor.
Yeah. So, are we just gonna let the pan warm up?
Yep. Now I'm gonna start to add my meat. Okay.
Yeah. So the first thing, that's one of the things is. You add your meat and you get your garlic prepared. That's usually the first thing we like to do.
And with your sausage, you're going to poke it because sometimes it'll spit quite a bit. So poking it allows
for the juices on the inside to get out. And sometimes you might not want to do that if you're grilling sausage because you'd like to have those juices. But for this one, we want to let all the tasty goodness get out.
Okay, so this is your beef, your pork, and your sausage.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to put the brioches in.
Yeah.
And we're going to let this brown on both sides. This takes probably about, you have your stove on medium-high, and it takes about maybe 10-15 minutes or so to get brown. So we'll be back in a little bit. And
are we gonna put the garlic in right now?
No, the garlic goes in towards the end because you don't want your garlic to burn.
Yeah, because if you let your garlic burn, you might as well just throw away the sauce because you can't get that out. So yeah, we'll be back when we brown these on both sides. Did you say how many minutes?
About 10 minutes, probably on one side, 10 on the other.
Yeah, this is actually this process. Now I know it's very easy to make sauce, but the thing is, it does take a while to make. So. Like, this might not be something you want to make if you are, like, say, you have plans later on. Although, because this is one of these recipes where you don't have to watch the sauce after you get it going. But, it does take a while to make. But, it is very easy to make. Mm-hmm. And it takes a little bit of time. And the best sauce you can cook is usually the sauce that you let cook for a long time.
And usually we like it to cook for at least a couple of hours. You can let it go. Some people start it early in the morning and let it go all day, so then it'll be ready for their supper. And with this kind of thing, also because all the meats and everything, they marinate in it, the sauce is actually even better the following day and the day after that. So that's what Pete mentioned, is that if you needed to have this sauce ready for in an hour, it probably would not be the best thing to do.
But on another recipe, we will be making a quick sauce, which is very similar to this.
Yep.
And so we'll come back when we get the meats all browned up.
Okay. As you can see, our meat is beautiful golden brown on both sides.
I wish you guys had, I'm probably going to say this a lot, but I wish you guys had smell-o-vision, because it just smells lovely.
And so what we're going to do now, I turn my, as you can see, everything is nice and brown, and the oil, you can see the lovely drippings on the bottom, and that only adds to the sauce as well.
Yeah, to the
flavor. So now I lowered my heat a little bit because we're going to add our garlic. And remember what we said, We don't want to burn the garlic because once you burn garlic, you might as well throw the whole dish away.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to add our garlic, and usually what I do, if I have a big clove, I usually like to score it a little bit. Don't go all the way down, like this, and then just pop it into my pan.
Okay.
A tiny one, we're just going to throw it in.
Yep.
Here's another one, pretty nice size. So I'm
Alright,
going to score it.
Let me get a little closer. Why is it whenever I gotta zoom in, this thing? Alright, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to just, don't go all the way through. I'm just going to score it. Our family, we happen to love garlic, so we don't take it out of the sauce. Some people, as you're putting your sauce away or you're ladling it into your pasta dish, will take the big garlics out because they don't like to eat them.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have it for the flavor.
Yeah. So now
that's about it. Now I raised my temperature up just slightly so my garlic can cook into the oil and get the flavor gets infused.
Yep. Yeah, this pasta sauce or tomato sauce my mom's been making forever. My dad makes the same thing, but he uses a variation. He likes to put in his own wine.
Yeah, at this point, my husband, what he would do is he would add, and sometimes I do it too, but I'm going to show you just the traditional way that our family has always made it, is you can add about half a cup of wine into this. Again, that will help loosen up all that loveliness on the bottom from the meat. And it just adds a little tiny bit difference of flavor.
Yeah, it's not too bad. He always secretly throws in the wine, and I always ask him, "Did you put wine in this?" No. Well, yes, he did. Yeah, he usually puts his own wine in, and yeah. So we just gotta let the garlic cook for a few minutes, right?
Yeah, and I wish I could. As Pete said, I wish you could have smell-o-vision of how good it smells.
Yeah.
And also, you can almost tell when you can now the garlic is ready. You can almost smell that it's infusing into the oil.
Whenever we're cooking sauce, and my friends come over, they're always like, or anyone actually just comes over, they're like, "Damn, that just smells so good. That just smells so yum."
And as you can see, how lovely the pieces of meat look.
Yeah, and we're just kind of browning them. We're not really cooking them thoroughly all the way through. Because as you'll see a little later, the sauce is actually going to just cook it for quite some time, and it'll definitely be ready.
I'm lowering the heat once again, and we're going to start adding our tomato sauce
Puree
into the. As remember we mentioned earlier, it could be. It could actually be a can of puree and a can of crushed. I occasionally will do that. You could add all crushed if you like it. Or you can even add some whole tomatoes and you chop them up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now we're adding 28-ounce cans.
Yep, these are the big cans, 28 ounces.
Of tomato puree. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, hey, that is a lot of sauce. That is a lot of tomato for one person to eat by themselves, if you're by yourself. But actually, this is like a family, I guess, size kind of recipe right here, because the nice thing about this sauce is that it's very versatile yet again, and you can use it for lasagna if you wanted to, and all kinds of different things. But the nice thing about this is that you can take this after you're done cooking it and let it cool down. Then you could throw it in the freezer if you want, because you might be thinking, hey, there's no way I'm going to use this much sauce this quick. Yeah, you can throw it in the freezer. My buddy Rob, his mom likes to take the sauce that she makes and put it in Ziploc bags and throw it in the freezer. And then it's ready to roll. You just warm it up later.
The other thing, too, you can... as Pete mentioned, this is for a family size. Now, what we'll end up doing is having a pound or a pound and a half of pasta later on tonight.
Or whenever.
And it'll be enough for that. And actually, we probably will get at least 3 different servings, but that's for a whole family.
Yeah.
So you could, if you don't want to, you don't have to make 3 cans. You could do 2 cans, use half for one time, freeze the other half. You could even do 1 can. Of course, then you're going to cut down on your meat.
Yeah,
You're going to
yeah.
do smaller portions in the meat
Yeah.
because the sauce,
Yeah.
the meat does kind of soak up some of the sauce as well.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we're going to come back, I'm going to show you, I'm going to clean my cans up, and I put a tiny bit of water in the cans to get all of that nice tomato sauce out. So we'll be right back. I mentioned that I was going to get a little water. What I did with my 3 cans is, of course, you're going to have some tomato puree left in the can on the sides. So I go to my sink, I take my 3 cans, I put a tiny bit, maybe a quarter of water in it. I swish it around and take my spoon, mix it all around because I want to get all of that leftover tomato. And then we add this to the sauce because you're adding a little extra water because you want this to boil down. That's the whole process of making a good tasting sauce. You want this to simmer, everything to kind of gel together. And I wish you could see it, but on the bottom now, once I've added the sauce and keep mixing, all that nice brown
drippings that were on the bottom,
it has come off and now is incorporated into the sauce.
Mm-hmm. So what is the next thing we need to do for this baby to continue its cooking?
The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some pepper. Now, I'm sorry I did not measure the pepper, but if you were using just regular pepper, you probably about a half a teaspoon, okay? And I'm using a grinder, so I don't know if you can see this, but I'm putting this all the way around. And you could add as much pepper if you like. If you like your stuff hot, you could even add some red crushed pepper in here. But I use just a regular black pepper. I put a couple of
dashes of
salt. You don't need a lot. I don't cook with a lot of salt.
It doesn't seem like a lot. I mean, that doesn't seem like a couple dashes, but
that's probably maybe a teaspoon of salt.
Yeah.
So this is basil. This is dried crushed basil, and this is 1 tablespoon. So we're going to add this to it.
There we go.
Okay.
And then you just kind of mix that in and incorporate that as well.
Now I'm also going to show you, because it's beautiful summertime right now, and I have an actual basil plant in my yard, and actually on my deck. So I went outside and I picked some actual fresh basil leaves, and they're so aromatic, they're just beautiful. And I'm going to add these to my sauce as well. Now you could add just plain basil, and you could just add a few leaves to it. I always add a little extra dried one as well, but I'm going to add this to my my sauce.
No, you don't need to chop that up or anything.
No, you could rip it if you wanted to.
Always make sure you wash it as well. There's another thing.
Right. And then just kind of dry it off, pat it dry, and then add it in. Drop it in, and there we go. That's a traditional sauce there with your fresh basil.
And then what is we have to add a little that tomato paste, right?
Yep.
But yeah, we just gotta see how easy this is. All you're doing is just adding some ingredients and just mixing it around.
Tomato paste it's a 6-ounce can.
Yep.
If you're making a big, like you could double this recipe. If you were doubling this,
you'd need a really big pan.
You would need a much bigger pan, but then you would put 2 of the tomato paste.
Yeah. So the tomato paste is also to help get it a little thick. Whoops. Which is, you know, I mean, we already put extra water, but this will help thicken it up to a nice consistency.
Okay, what we're going to do is we are going to...
Now, here's a time where you could put your meatballs in as well. If you're making meatballs and you like your meatballs to be cooked in the sauce as well.
Okay, now watch what I'm doing. I just brought my temperature up higher. So I want it to get to almost a boil. So you're going to see some bubbles coming up to the top of it. Okay, they won't come now that I'm mixing it, but I'm going to take my spoon out and we're going to wait a minute.
Yeah, because when you get
your can also makes a great
spoon rest. Yeah, you hold on to those for a little bit. All right,
okay,
so now
as you can see, it's starting to boil.
Yeah, there's a couple bubbles popping. I'm sauce. Blah, 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 blah. I am delicious.
Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower it just a little so that you can just see a tiny bit of simmer. And then we're going to put our splatter screen on top, or your cover.
Whichever
now, what you do have to do with this is that occasionally you have to come and give it a quick stir.
Yeah, like maybe every 15 minutes.
Okay.
So
this is it.
We're going to let this cook for how many hours, you think?
At least. For the minimum would be 2 hours.
Okay.
Okay, so now that's what we're going to let happen.
We're going to let this baby cook for at least 2 hours. And then what's the maximum, you would say, if you want a really good sauce?
I have had it on where I've made it like at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I kept it going until like 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, and that is some really good sauce. So yeah, you just kind of want to come back in maybe every 15, 20 minutes. You know, go watch yourself a YouTube video or whatever. Come back in every 15, 20 minutes. Just stir it once or twice. Make sure nothing's sticking on the bottom, nothing's burning on the bottom, and then go do whatever you want. But yeah, that's just the one thing about this sauce. You don't have to watch it, but you just gotta kind of be aware of where it is at in the cooking process. So we'll be back in a few hours with this sauce.
Hi.
We're back after 3.5 hours, and we made some macaroni too. But here's what the sauce looks like.
I'm going to be draining the macaroni now, and here's what some of the meat looks like that we cooked. Let's
look at the delicious, delicious meat right here. Yum. Yummy. If I could zoom in and not have to deal with the focus. Yum. There we go. We've got our brajol, our pork, our beef, our meatballs. Now with brajol, remember, don't eat it whole. You need to take off that string. But yeah, we're gonna put some of this delicious, delicious sauce on some of this delicious, delicious macaroni, which isn't in here yet. But we're gonna put some on, and yeah, it's just that simple.
We made penne ziti.
Yummy. And this is just like a regular Sunday for us. And now you just take some of that yummy, yummy sauce, and it's really dependent on how much macaroni or how much sauce you guys like. I mean, if you're a person who likes more sauce, put more sauce. But if not, don't worry about it.
Yeah, some people like a lot. I personally like a little extra.
Yeah.
But most of my family, they don't. So we just coat it with the tomato sauce. And then I usually just put some extra on the table.
Yep.
So that I can add some extra to my
But yeah, that
plate.
is some delicious sauce.
Here we are with the final product. We've got our macaroni. Can you see it?
And our sauce and the meatball.
And the meatballs in the middle. You can see the steam coming out.
Yeah, because it's hot. So let's give it a go.
Here you go, Pete.
No, I want the meatball. I already tried a meatball earlier. Damn it. So yeah, I usually pick it up like this.
You could also add extra grated cheese on top if you'd like. A lot of people like to add that to it as well.
That is some good sauce right there. So this has been Pete, or Kenshin1913, along with
Mom.
And we'll see you in the next episode.
Enjoy and happy eating.